The security forces are dropped off on the outskirts of a mock village.
Covering!
As they maneuver towards their target, they keep a close eye for enemy movement. The intelligence they have is that the village is known as a safe haven for terrorists and a base of operation. Their objective is to make contact with village leaders, engage the enemy, and secure the area. It's all part of the training exercise called Military Operations on Urban Terrain.
Cody!
As they make their way into the village, the insurgents open fire, and a gun battle ensues.
Go! Fire!
You want to play it like it was real world. And so the adrenaline gets going, and then you revert back to what you've been trained on.
Someone go get him!
They attack from multiple angles, taking up positions behind buildings, doing anything to drive the insurgents out.
We can endure anything as a team, and that's our main focus. The training, of course, is very important, learning team movements, learning different types of building clearing procedures. But ultimately, we're coming down to become a concisive team.
Show me your hand!
In this scenario, guardsmen are attempting to take an insurgent alive, and he claims he wants to surrender, but it turns out to be a trap. That white powder is from a simulated suicide vest, and the entire team around him has been either wounded or killed. This is something that hits home to these airmen and allows them to learn from their mistakes.
When that happened to my team, as soon as it happened, I realized what we should have done, and there were some corrective actions that I could have taken as a fire team leader that, if faced with that situation again, we wouldn't make the same mistake twice.
This 7-day training exercise allows these guardsmen to see what it might be like when they deploy to a combat zone.
We train like we fight. And so now we've got the young guys up to speed, the older guys have taken on new roles, new leadership roles, and so now that cohesion is here now at the end of the week.
This training helps to keep the security forces up to speed, so when a real deployment comes around, they're ready to take on any challenge. In Helena, Jeff Van Sant for Montana's news station. Crumbling structures is all that remains of a once bustling operation. During its heyday, thousands of people dug more than 40 mine shafts that covered more than 15 square miles.
To think of what the miners did back then and the little bit of tools that they had and working the winters up here and, you know, just being able to survive up here and get all this kind of metal out.
In 1879, silver and lead were discovered. By the 1880s, it became a booming industry. By 1929, this area became the largest producer of lead in Montana. By the 1940s, the operation grinded to a halt. For more than 60 years, the site has been inactive, and now it has become one of the largest Superfund sites in the state.
The first time I saw it, it was absolutely overwhelming. It's just awe-inspiring in a very negative way almost.
The Block P mine area contains more than 250,000 cubic yards of material, and over the years the tailings have been leaking into Silver Creek and has run miles downstream, affecting both the Galena and Dry Fork Belt Creeks. One of the main problems is groundwater.
This water continually flows from underneath this building, and what it is it's groundwater coming up through the mine shafts, the holes that have been drilled by the miners, and it's coming through all of this mineralized rock and entering into a creek. This is the type of thing that we need to stop. This type of discharge is what needs to be stopped.
The orange color is created by several types of iron which have left this part of the creek heavily impacted. The Department of Environmental Quality, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Lewis and Clark National Forest is working together, formulating a plan of action to deal with the waste material and clean up the stream. Despite the mess around Block P mine, just a few miles downstream near Bender Creek, progress has been made.
To see it in a whole different state is pretty satisfying.
For the past 2 years, the Forest Service has been cleaning up the stream, removing tailings and planting vegetation to revitalize the area.
We're getting pretty good success with our revegetation, and it's a whole different landscape than it was a couple years ago.
Fences and hay bales were put in place along the creek, helping to prevent dirt from flowing into the water. With this one success, officials see it as just one stepping stone in returning the entire area back to its original state. As for the Block P mine, the owner of the site is working on a plan to remove the structures and figure out a way to move the tailings to a more safe area. Near Monarch, Jeff Van Sant for Montana's News. At more than 98 feet in length, it's one of the largest helicopters in the military's inventory, and this aircraft continues to serve on the front lines. In this typical training mission, you will get to see just what this aircraft and crews are capable of. As the engines roar to life, the sound inside is deafening, so crews can only communicate through headsets. Now, what's truly amazing is to see an aircraft that weighs more than 26,000 pounds when loaded can move at such an amazing speed. In fact, the Chinook is one of the fastest helicopters in the military, with a maximum speed of 170 knots, or roughly 196 miles per hour.
Looks like a big old school bus, but this aircraft maneuvers with anything in the inventory.
And that aircraft needs to be agile, especially as guardsmen operate in mountainous terrain.
4, 3, 2, 1, contact.
In this exercise, guardsmen practice typical landings on mountaintops, sometimes landing with one wheel touching the ground. This simulates combat conditions when the helicopter is ferrying more than 30 troops. The next phase of the mission took us to a field where several cement blocks sit. Crews prepare one of them to be hooked to the helicopter. This cement block weighs over 18,000 pounds. Now that might sound like an impossible weight to pick up, but this helicopter can do that and more.
The Chinook helicopter is powered by 2 engines that produces a total of 10,000 horsepower, which allows the aircraft to carry more than 20,000 pounds.
This aircraft continues to amaze me almost every day we fly it. You know, when you look at put 33 people inside it, you know, the ability to pick up 18,000 pounds, pushing it right to the max gross weight of 50,000 pounds at these altitudes. This aircraft performs amazingly well.
Picking up that 18,000-pound block requires the entire crew to communicate as a team.
Okay, loaded, hook.
After hookup, the crews ferry the block to a different location and drop it. Now, its role of troop and supply carrier doesn't stop there. These guardsmen also have a state mission, helping to fight wildfires.
We carry a 2,000-gallon water bucket. It is absolutely incredible when you start attacking wildland fires with it.
What's truly remarkable is that this entire training mission is repeated at night.
It brings that dark night to a green daylight for us.
This advantage is used in areas of operation like Iraq and Afghanistan, but it doesn't end there. Back here in Montana, crews can conduct search and rescue missions.
That did happen in Kalispell about a year and a half ago. We launched an aircraft out of here at night with goggles to look for some lost skiers.
No matter what role the helicopter and crews perform, the Chinook will continue to serve the state and the country for years to come. In the skies over Helena, Jeff Van Sant for Montana's News Station. Making their presence known. It marks the beginning of a new era for the 120th Fighter Wing. With the arrival of these twin-engine monsters, it means big changes for the Guard. It's been more than 2 years since it was first announced, and Guardsmen are ready to take on a new challenge.
Excited to get on and fly the F-15, another Premier fighter, so I was pretty excited to see it.
Colonel, how are you?
For more than 20 years, the base has been home to the F-16 with a mission of air-to-ground support. But the new planes are bringing on a new role of air-to-air combat.
I've always liked the air-to-air side of it, so I'm excited to do that, definitely.
Although the aircraft had started to arrive, it's going to be months before it fills the skies of Montana. But right now, maintenance crews are getting their first taste of the new jet.
There's a lot more systems on the airplane, a lot more things to look at, a lot more things to take apart, and a lot more hours and man-hours spent.
For most crews, this is their first experience with this jet, so there's a bit of a learning curve.
It's pretty intense because you got 2 engines, you got intakes, you got a lot more missile items sticking out in the airstream to bunk your head on. You got a lot more danger zones, different exhausts coming out different places, so you really got to be more aware.
As pilots and crews continue their training, the jets will remain grounded until everyone is up to speed. But in the meantime, more jets will be arriving, and soon 18 F-15s will call the Electric City their new home. In Great Falls, Jeff Van Sant for Montana's News Station.